Do you know of anyone who's actually quantified that and said, yes, actually, here's a direct read across in terms of how fills are being done, liquidity, whatever metric you want? Has anyone that you've seen, anybody done that? Because this is what we're still struggling with, I think. And that's just what regulators struggle with, is going back to Ki Meng's point about data, a lack of data. This intellectual point about there's nothing more to it than what we used to do in the old days, I think lots of people can accept that intellectually, but it's the fact set that comes after that I think is missing. I mean, in terms of this is the difficulty we have, isn't it? There will be myths perpetrated about this as long as there is lack of clarity over the data that is coming from statements like, we are simply doing liquidity provision like we used to. And that's the big piece that's missing, really, it seems to me.
I think the key thing that we see from our side is that actually this is a flag in the ground in terms of the big change in market structure going forwards. There's a couple of points that Ki Meng raised, which, again, from a general logic perspective, are absolutely spot on. The technology is not that expensive, it's relatively accessible, and it's about the data. But we're not seeing people invest in that technology or have access to that data. So it's almost like a class divider in some respect. You have the cream at the top who are looking in this direction and have the capabilities or the connectivity to be able to be involved in HFT techniques.
Are you talking about buy sides?
Well, buy side, and also there's a sell side element to this, and the general broker community. If you look at exchanges or people who provide co-location services, there's a limited amount of space available into which people can place their.
Have you been to Basildon recently? It's you could fit
the
8 football
new
pitches
Hollywood
in there.
Yeah, no, but it's it's changing the way that the market structure ultimately is holding itself up, and activities, functions are moving from one element. It might be that buy side is relying on other areas in order to service this, but certainly from a data provision perspective, the vast amounts of data that are out there and the speed at which that data is moved, not everybody can capture this. So I don't think it's accessible to everybody at the moment, and there is a problem in making that and this is part of the definition element, there is a problem in making sure that firms are able to understand what's happening in the market on an intraday basis, when a lot of systems that are in place are actually based on understanding what happened yesterday, not.
That picks up on something which I personally would disagree with Ki Meng on, actually, and this idea that I think you're right. When in answer to the question, is there systemic risk because of high frequency trading? I think your position was not you didn't see particularly a systemic risk. I think actually there is potentially an enormous risk, which we might want to explore because of intraday risks that clearinghouses are not necessarily yet equipped to deal with, particularly when you get into discussions about new asset classes that high-frequency traders might get into, such as OTC derivatives in the States. I was speaking to a lawyer who had a call from a high-frequency trader looking at all the rulemakings that are coming out of the SEC and CFTC on SEFs, swap execution facilities, and asking, when can I trade OTC derivatives? It's a new asset class. We're having difficulty making money, with the asset classes we're trading now. This is a nice new asset class. When you get into the idea of trading HFTs guys coming in and trading whatever OTC derivative products across a fragmented landscape of multiple SEFs with multiple connectivity to CCPs, this time I'm moving in a slightly different direction with this now, but let's look at that. I think that's.
Well, it's similar to the number of calls for a consolidated tape, and in the last few weeks we've heard of a couple of organisations talking about creating that consolidated tape. So who's going to consolidate the consolidators? It's the sort of the fragmentation element and the ability to get hold of this information and to aggregate it appropriately and then make sense of it is something that many organisations aren't equipped to deal with.
Including regulators.
And that is in particular a regulatory issue because they just do not have the resources to be able to have this layer of transparency and visibility. And HFT is, in theory, a mechanism for providing much greater transparency. But the market just isn't in a position yet where it can take advantage of that.
Who are the people who, in the media, sort of brouhaha, are the bad guys? Who are the bad guys? Who are they? Where are they? What are they doing? I mean, if GETCO isn't the bad guy, and I think we probably agree that GETCO aren't the bad guys, and the other guys they've named aren't, who are these people?
I think the important point in all of this is, again, going back to something in Ki Meng's presentation, was HFT sometimes results in a lot of order cancellations, and that can hide a lot of market abuse.
Right.
If you look at what's going on in terms of market surveillance at the moment, a lot of it occurs within a particular venue. It's not across venues. That connectivity is a bit like the British Rail network. There's no consistent mechanism for enabling you to get from point A to point B and have true understandings. It's one of the reasons why people are asking for a consolidated tape. So, there probably are people abusing the system and being tarred under the HFT brush, or the HFT brush is being used wrongly at the wrong point and in the wrong time. But it comes back to the same problem of the fact that we just don't have this cross-market transparency, the connectivity, ability to monitor the data that's flowing around quickly enough and do the analysis on it as needed.
And let's not forget, exchanges in many cases encourage order cancellation. They have high cancellation rates deliberately, which is that not a related problem? Perhaps the exchanges have a role in as much as there's a data problem.
Yeah.
The exchanges which are falling over each other to attract this activity allow things like that.
Yeah. Well, there's in Germany there was a significant increase in order volume when a particular venue decided to give cost benefits for higher transaction, higher flow
You mean
rates.
Fee cuts by Deutsche Börse the other day? Yes, I think I'm right in saying they gave it away for free, didn't they?
Yeah. So that sort of changes the dynamic of the market, and at the moment there's no mechanism for capturing all of that information and being able to look across everything and see which elements are being abused and which are actually bona fide policy executions.